Hi, I'm Sami, and this is the Career Kickstart Show. And I am jazzed, and after looking at her website, pretty hungry. But I am jazzed because I have Rosemary from Authentic Food Quest on my show. Now, AuthenticFoodQuest.com is labeled a resource platform that connects travelers to local food experience. It's also the place that's been making me like drool ever since I found it. Now, Rosemary has quite the story, and I want to give her a chance to give everybody the nutshell version. But I got to tell you, if you're watching this you're listening to this episode, and you're looking at the website, you will start snacking. That is the warning. So if you're on a diet, beware. Anyway, Rosemary, how about you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much, Sami, for having me on your podcast. It's really a pleasure to be here. In terms of myself and my background, I've had a really different kind of career path. I spent the majority of my career working in corporate America, and specifically in advertising. I was an advertising strategy director at various agencies in Chicago primarily, and then I worked in Paris and in Los Angeles. And then about 4 years ago, together with my partner, Claire Rouget, we decided to leave the corporate nonsense, so to speak, or the stress, and set off and create Authentic Food Quest as a way of connecting travelers to the local food experiences. But even before that, actually, I had dabbled in entrepreneurship. About 2003 or so, I opened a fitness franchise called Curves. It was a fitness franchise for women. And so from about 2003 to 2007, I ran 3 Curves franchises, 2 in Chicago and 1 in Nice, France. And so I've always had this entrepreneurial battle or dream within myself. And so 4 years ago, when we launched Authentic Food Quest, the idea is to, as I mentioned, to invite travelers to eat local, and personally is to really pursue this entrepreneurial journey and make a career out of it.
Wow, that's quite a lot of career pivots, because I've heard of Curves and everything like that. I feel like even probably worked out at a Curves once when my sister had a membership. So working at Curves and running 3 Curves, being the curve master, if you will, and then working at an agency, working internationally. Was there just a moment where you guys decided, I know that you like food and you like travel, but was there just a moment where you look around the agency, the ad agency at all the Don Draper types and just throw your papers up in the air and be like, I'm being a food blogger, I'm out? Like, how did that even happen?
It's funny. I wish I could say that's what it was, but I actually really loved my job in advertising. I always tell my colleagues, I think I had the best job. And that's because it was a place where I could be analytical and I could be creative, and I worked with a team. And for the most part, I had great clients and a great boss, because that always makes a difference. Great bosses, actually, because there were several. But it got to a point where I was looking around the agency world, and I was seeing people stuck. Most of it was because of what we call the golden handcuffs. They're making so much money, and they're living in, big homes. They're investing in their kids' education. So a lot of people felt, in my opinion, looking around, felt trapped. I didn't want that for my life. And then as I grew in my career and eventually became a director, I realized that it was I was doing less of the work that I enjoyed and doing more of the politics, which I really, really detested. And I remember a point when I was in Los Angeles, I was working in a very big project, and there were challenges right from the beginning of the project. And I remember one time coming home and my heart was beating, almost palpitations. And I'm like, and I've never had that experience. And I was like, oh, this is not the life that I want. And so the question then became, then what? Which is your question. So what do I do with my life? So the good news is my partner and I, about 2 years ago, had started thinking about working together and doing something. We were inspired in part by Tim Ferriss and the 4-Hour Workweek, and the idea of being able to work where we want, as long as we have a good internet connection, and when we want. And at that point, I was craving control over my life and the choices that I was making. And so that idea of what the book, The 4-Hour Workweek, did for me was open me up to the idea that I don't have to be working in an office. I don't have to have a client. I can create what I want. So back to the question, so what should it be? So at this point in time, it was just really, we looked at what are we passionate about? What are the things that excite us? We were living in Paris at the time, just before moving to Los Angeles. And travel was, something that we both enjoy and have always enjoyed. So that's always a new energy, a new perspective. So that's something that we wanted to incorporate into the business. And then food. And food really it's really about a way of connecting. I remember being in Paris, living in France really opened me up to a lot of new foods, new experiences in different parts of the country. And every time I would visit a new area, I'd always look for the local cheeses, the local wines, the local meats, the local dishes for that area. And that's something that I realized that not a lot of people do. And in my own travels, I would also see people, be it colleagues from work, you go to a new country where we were traveling for business and all they want to go do is eat Italian. And I'm like, but we're in a new country, let's eat local. And so that idea started of, if we're going to travel, let's explore the food and then let's help people discover what to eat so that they can have a more memorable travel experience. So it's something that, to answer your question, I didn't throw up my arms and decide, oh my God, I want to be a food blogger. What it was I want to do something that I enjoy. So what am I passionate about? And then how can I also help people do the same? And so for me, it's less actually about the food, but more so about the connections that we're making and a different way of traveling. But don't get me wrong, I love the food exploration. I love the eating. I love the wines. I love the, everything, the food festivals, markets. Don't get me wrong, that's all really important, but it's more about how can I travel in this new way and help others do the same.
Oh, that makes complete sense. And the thing is you have actually a very good quote on your website that says you have to taste a culture to understand it.
Yes.
And I love that because one, I enjoy eating. We've met in person. You can tell that I'm not a woman that's going to say no to dessert. I'm like, yes, please. I will accept that offering. There's a lovely restaurant around here because just backstory for the listeners, me and Rosemary met in Bansko, Bulgaria, and near the co-working space where we met, there is a delightful restaurant where this man, when you order, he just gives you free dessert. And each time I want to be like, I'm full, that was great, but I'm like, oh, but you brought me cake. How can I say no? So I'm somebody who's always really appreciated food, but there's one thing that I do agree that, at least for me, can be intimidating sometimes, trying to find either the authentic food or trying to get outside of the tourist bubble. What do you find is people's hesitation or intimidation or their fear in kind of going to find that authentic food? Do you feel like they can't find it? Are they scared of it? What do you find that people's impressions are when it comes to their own authentic food quests?
That's a great question. And I think it has to do with people are scared of approaching other people. And particularly if they're in a new country and they don't speak the same language. So I think they're scared they'll not be understood or they'll make a fool of themselves. And so they don't want to venture too far. I think that's one. I actually think they're afraid of the people. So I think that's sad. But I do think that's something that stops people. Secondly, I think people might be scared that they'll be disappointed or that they may not like that particular dish, or it might have some flavors, or it might be too spicy, or whatever concern that they might have around that food. I think those are the two primary issues that stops people. And I find it I think those are issues that can be overcome, but it really starts with having a curious mindset and wanting to explore. And so one of the things that I also find I still have a hard time understanding is people will save their money, take their vacation, travel internationally to a new country, somewhere they probably have never been before, and then they stay closed. So I can sense that there is a desire to go beyond their comfort zone and explore, but somewhere where they get stuck on the food. And so with Authentic Food Quest, the idea really is to give them a guide, give them a map, so that they can follow. And if they're going to go all the way, for example, to Bulgaria, why not come here and have a chopska salad or tarator soup or any of the wonderful grilled meats that they have here in this particular country. So there is something that I believe that we can help overcome with food. And it's about helping people stretch beyond their comfort zones. So there is something there that I'd like to help people with.
Yeah, that totally makes sense, especially when you think about how with some countries, whether it's Americans or Japanese or something, they're only working with so many days off. So I've noticed a difference between folks who are on vacation, folks who are maybe nomading, folks who are backpacking, is that a lot of nomads, because they're traveling a little bit slower, they're not rushing through feeling like, okay, we have to hit all these points off on our list, and if something goes wrong, then oh my gosh, we only have 4 days left of our vacation.
Right.
So it makes sense that a lot of people feel like, oh, we gotta, I'm almost tired, I got decision fatigue, what do I do? But the cool thing is about your website is that you guys don't just have a blog, you guys have a number of books. You guys have some books on Amazon, Authentic Food Quest Argentina, Authentic Food Quest Peru. Oh my God, Peruvian food.
Yes.
And then you have some smaller books, Food Trails, Bangkok, Buenos Aires. So for you guys started your journey in Argentina, and so far you guys have been to, 34, 36 countries so far?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
You guys probably got some stamps on that passport.
I'm on passport number 2. Claire's almost done with her passport. Yeah, but it's about going deep, because once you touch the food, there is so much to be learned about the food and so many differences based on whether you're in the northern part of the country, the southern part of the country, the central region. So we could be in just one country, literally, and just spend our time talking about the food, because then you have the seasonal differences. So it's not so much about how many stamps you can have in our passport, but really about, traveling deep, really understanding the food and the culture and the stories behind the dishes and why they're important to that particular region or country.
Okay, so how do you guys plan your, I guess your food quest? I am a very impulsive traveler. I only decided to go to Bulgaria a week and a half before I went. But I would assume that you guys have to do a little bit more planning to actually figure out, okay, how do we take advantage of the seasons here? Because I know in Bulgaria right now, the produce is amazing.
Yes.
Or planning out which region, how do you guys decide how you're going to eat your way around a country?
Yeah, there are a lot of it's a combination of factors, lots of reasons that help us get there. I think, and it evolves. So in the beginning, we wanted to leave, when we left Los Angeles, we said, let's go to South America. And at that point, it was, why South America? So we didn't know much about the region. We knew that the cost of living would be much less than it was in the United States. We also had heard that there were some bloggers doing some interesting things. And then, of course, the food culture between Argentina, Peru, Chile, spoke for themselves as well, too. So we were thinking initially about going to Asia, But at that point, it was our first time on this quest, looking and studying food. We did not speak any Asian languages, and we still do not. But Claire spoke Spanish. And so the very decision to go to South America for 6 months was really based on somewhere that we could communicate, and also certainly had the food culture, and somewhere that would also be maybe not too different than what we were used to. We lived in a very multicultural neighborhood in Los Angeles, still the US, I know, but we had a lot of Spanish influence around us. So that was why we chose to go to South America to begin with. After that, we decided to go to Southeast Asia. And that time, the decision was, again, we were looking at culturally rich and gastronomically rich countries. We were also more familiar with what it was like to travel through food. So we felt confident, even if we didn't speak the language. And so we traveled, again, for about 6 months, hitting about 6 or 7 different countries within that time. And so now we're on our European quest. And so we're starting out in Bulgaria, and we'll be visiting different countries. And so the decision as to where to go, some of it depends really on time of year. Do we want to avoid the snow, or do we want to be with the snow? What's accessible, internet, so there are all those decisions. But at the core is a country that has a rich history around food.
It sounds delightful. I'm looking, because while we're talking, I'm looking also through your blog and everything like that. And I've been to South America as well. I mostly spent time in Brazil and Colombia. And now you're making me wish I had gone to Uruguay and down to Argentina. I got to get down there soon, because this is, oh my God, I got to stop looking at this, because it is like, for people who are listening, probably in the future, it's like 11 a.m. here, and my American stomach, which starts to activate shortly before noon, is pretty much being like, stop looking at this stuff. Stop looking at this stuff.
Yes. No, that's funny. Yeah, we missed Brazil on our South American tour, but we're definitely looking at going back and hitting specifically Brazil. So that is definitely in the plan in the next year or so.
Well, one of the most unexpected but my favorite place that actually I went in Brazil was in Sao Paulo. They have a very large population of Japanese people. They have like the largest, I guess, Japanese colony outside of Japan. And it's like the Liberdade neighborhood. And it is a place where you can go and you can find not just like authentic Japanese food, but like interesting fusions and stuff like that. So if you want something that's a little different, Sao Paulo has a little mini Japan right inside of it. So that might be at least good for a blog entry or two.
No, that's fascinating, because Peru also has a huge Japanese community. I think it's second actually after Brazil. And so the fusion between Japanese and Peruvian food called Nikkei is also absolutely fascinating and delicious as well too. So I'd be curious to see the interpretation in Brazil as compared to what we discovered in Peru.
There you go. I already got some content for you. I'm looking forward to what you come up with once you go to Brazil. So, Rosemary, you've done so many cool things. It looks like you've been to so many countries. If people go to their blog, what I like about the fact that some of these blog sites, they give you all these or these travel sites are like, look at this amazing thing that I made here. And it's like, okay, well, how do I make that? And then you're like, okay, how do I get any of the ingredients for that? So you actually guys do a pretty good job in showcasing how people actually might be able to get some of these sauces, whether it's a chimichurri sauce or a sambal sauce from Singapore or something like that. So that's really cool. And not only is that very convenient for your readers and your fans, it's also something that I presume that you guys are able to get affiliate money off of. Now that I've started taking it from food to business, Rosemary, if you had any advice for someone who wanted to be a food blogger, what would be like a first thing for them to decide before they become a food blogger? Like, is there something where you can see it and you're like, you're going to make it, kid? Or you're like, I don't know, kid, find another thing to blog about. Like, not that you'd be rude because you're very nice, but like, what is the thing that you're like, this is what you need to know when you start food blogging?
Yeah, I think at the core, whatever you start, you want to be passionate about and around because you're going to spend a lot of hours on it. So, assuming that this particular individual is passionate about food in some capacity, you want to really be passionate, not necessarily about the eating, but everything around it. And then I think the first thing you would want to decide is, what kind of food blogger do you want to be? Do you want to be someone that's talking about recipes and coming up with recipes? Or do you want to do, for example, like what I do, which is travel through food? So we highlight some recipes, but that's not the focus. We combine food and travel. Or do you want to be a food blogger that's talking about kitchen gadgets, different tools, different ways to bring your cooking to life? So I think you have to start with defining what kind of food blogger do you want to be. And then once you make that decision, I would say is, with all your passion and compassion, you put yourself in there and you go all in. But starting with passion there's nothing more important than having a passion for what you're going to be doing.
Yeah, I would agree, because working online, because doing the nomad life and everything, I have people who are like, oh, I'd love to work online. And I'm usually like, okay, well, how that starts is about a year or more before. You spend a lot of time pulling your hair out, watching webinars, trying to figure out how to do this. And then you do a lot of trial and error and insert your favorite curses as you realize that you have to learn WordPress and everything like that. For you, like, since you had an agency background, do you feel like that was something that really did give you like an advantage, or did you feel like social media, I feel like social media just moves so quickly. But I don't know, do you feel like your background really did give you an edge, or what?
I do, actually. I do think it gave me an edge and an understanding of the power of social media and digital marketing. Actually, the reason when we left Paris and moved to Los Angeles, I joined a digital agency for the very reason of learning about digital tools, because we knew that eventually we would leave and create our own business. So that absolutely helped. Where, unfortunately, I don't know if it's unfortunate or not, but I was at a director level, so I wasn't doing a lot of the day-to-day work, especially when it came on social media. So I had a team that was doing that. So I understood what they were doing, but I was not the one doing it. So when it came to running the business, I understood what needed to be done. But then I was then the person to be doing it. So that took there was some learning curve there. And as you mentioned, Sami, social media is changing all the time. So the most important thing is to keep abreast with what's happening and continue to evolve and grow. So yes, there was an advantage of being aware of what was needed. And then there's a difference between now being the one responsible for doing it. And so that was the new part.
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense, because you guys have a very, very professional looking setup, especially with your Work With Me page. I mean, you guys got some crazy views on Pinterest. My goodness.
Yeah, it's become a platform that we've been investing in recently.
No, I mean, that makes sense. My Pinterest might as well just be my hopes and dreams digital scrapbook. So it's where anything shiny, I'm like, ooh, maybe I do want to learn how to appreciate the taste of durian in Southeast Asia, which is one of your little Pinterests. Awesome, Rosemary. It sounds like you guys have been able, you and Claire have been able to make quite not just like a cool, like, I work online, this is how I do it, but a way to share the world with the world as you go around. So that is awesome.
Thank you so much. And I have to give credit to the people who have been there before us and have opened up opened up people in general to the idea that you can travel through food. And, you know, one of our heroes is Anthony Bourdain. And it's been, you know, it's unfortunate the circumstances that he's no longer with us today, but the fact that he was out there and visiting different countries and talking about the culture and opening up people to the different dishes out there, that was something that, you know, gave us, I guess, confidence that there was interest in this space. So when we were starting this business and on our journey, you know, we were like, do people really care? So when we saw the interest and attraction around Anthony Bourdain, that gave us a lot of confidence. So we are grateful for that. And then today, all the many, you know, Top Chef, Master Chef shows that are out there on Netflix talking about street food, you know, we really see a move for people looking for more authentic experiences. And, you know, our goal is to be right there at the center of that and to really give people, whether it might be a book or a PDF guide to a particular city, or just learning about the dishes in a particular region, you know, we want to be that resource for them so they can do, you know, a little bit of what Anthony Bourdain does or did, or do a little bit about what we do by giving them some guidance.
That's great. You know, I love seeing folks who are able to just, you know, bring a little bit more to, you know, the idea of travel, you know, because I feel like there is definitely a swing towards leaving, I guess. I mean, I never did this because, you know, being a shifty millennial, that's beyond my price range. But the people who go to that Caribbean resort, then they go on their cruise, and and they really don't, you know, go darken the path of anything beyond that curated experience. And I think we're definitely doing a swing away from that, trying to actually engage with the people. And you're part of the movement, Rosemary.
Thank you. And it's hard. I can tell you one thing that really helps is having a smile. Because even here in Bulgaria, I mean, of course, you know, we do not speak the language. But, you know, when you meet the locals, as soon as you smile, there's something that just breaks down almost immediately. And there is some openness. And then when you express some sort of curiosity, like, for instance, in the context of food, and for example, visiting a local farmer's market, if you just point at the dish, the fruit, the produce, whatever it might be, and even if you don't know how to say what is it, but you shrug your shoulders and you just smile and you're like, you know, you shrug your shoulders and you're like, what is it? When people see that, they tend to open up, and somewhere you find a way to connect. And I think that's the beauty of food, is that it has a way of bringing us together in a very non-confrontational way, and in a way that communicates love as well. So that's beautiful. That's what we love about this experience, and hoping that we can help travelers have those moments as well on their travels.
Rosemary, I have thoroughly appreciated meeting you here in Bulgaria. I am really excited to see what you guys come up with next, you and Claire. Now, before I go, I know that I've talked about your website, authenticfoodquest.com, but I want to make sure if there's anything that I missed, or if there's any other place where you want folks to reach out to you, anything new that you're doing, this is your time to just let us know how the listeners can connect with you or follow your adventures on the web.
Thank you, Sami. Definitely authenticfoodquest.com is the best way to connect. We also have a YouTube channel that's at YouTube, Authentic Food Quest. That's also a great way to connect as well, too. And then, you know, if you're traveling or planning travels or interested in a cuisine from a different part of the world, we invite you to visit authenticfoodquest.com and look under the destination section and learn about the dishes and food experiences in that particular region.
Awesome. Well, I hope everybody listening at home goes to check out authenticfoodquest.com. And thank you so much, Rosemary, for being on the show.
Thank you, Sami, for having me.
This was great. Now, and thank you all for listening. As always, I'm Sami Gardner, and this is the Career Kickstart Show. Bye.
Change your career, change your life at CareerKickstartAcademy.com.